Looking for a fast-charging, ultra-responsive stylus for your iPad? Meet the 2X Fast Charge Active Stylus Pen, designed for 2018 to 2025 Apple iPads. Take your creativity and productivity to the next level. Click the link in the video description to shop now on Amazon.
Minister issues key, update on chance of UK Army conscription, as Putin threat looms. The UK is not considering conscription to boost the British Army amid a rising threat from Russia, a senior minister has said. Cabinet Office Minister Pat McFadden told Sky News Sunday morning with Trevor Phillips that Europe does have to step up in terms of its own defense. But he ruled out conscription to bolster troop numbers, as Europe races to rearm as fears over a lack of American support intensify. Latvian Prime Minister Edgars Rinkēvičs has told Europe more countries should consider the radical move as Donald Trump applies diplomatic pressure on Ukraine to end the war and the continent to step up on defense. Asked whether conscription is something the government has in mind, Mr. McFadden said, "We're not considering conscription, but of course, we've announced a major increase in defense expenditure a couple of weeks ago, and we do have to recognize that the world has changed here." The phrase, step up, is used a lot in recent weeks, and Europe does have to step up in terms of its own defense. President Trump isn't actually the first president to say that, but he said it more loudly and with more force than his predecessors. So, I think we've got to recognize that moment. The army is at its smallest since the Napoleonic Wars, with about 73,000 troops. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has announced that the UK's overseas aid budget will be cut by about £6.1 billion to fund an increase in defence from 2.3% to 2.5% of GDP, about £5.9 billion. He also set a goal of spending 3% of GDP on defence by the end of the next parliament, but has not said how this will be funded. The Prime Minister and French President Emmanuel Macron have been seeking countries who would be willing to defend a peace deal by joining a so-called coalition of the willing. On Friday, the U.S. president threatened to place tariffs on Vladimir Putin's country in response to Russia, absolutely pounding Ukraine. Mr. Trump paused military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine following his clash with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office last week. Officials from about 20 largely European and Commonwealth countries took part in talks on Wednesday about the so-called coalition of the willing. It is understood. Mr. McFadden, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, said that people have to be up for it. Asked on the BBC's Sunday with Laura Kuenssberg how many countries have said they would be willing to take part, Mr. McFadden said, "These discussions are going on. I think it's important to have European countries involved in this." The Prime Minister certainly stepped up, and other countries have indicated that they want to do that. "We use your sign-up to provide content in ways you've consented to and to improve our understanding of you. This may include adverts from us and third parties based on our understanding. You can unsubscribe at any time. Read our privacy policy." Of course, coalition of the willing means people have to be up for it. They have to step forward themselves. They can't be dragooned by us. But the UK and the Prime Minister is playing an important role in those discussions, and will continue to do that. Mr. McFadden did not say whether or not it was wrong for the U.S. to have withdrawn satellite images and other information from Ukraine. Asked whether it was wrong, Mr. McFadden told Sky News, "Well, it's their decision. It's not something that we've done. We support Ukraine. We continue to supply Ukraine with weapons, with intelligence support, with help on the cyber front, because we believe that they're engaged in a really important fight for their country's freedom and the capacity to decide their own future." Pushed further on whether the White House bears any responsibility for casualties in Ukraine, Mr. McFadden said, "With regard to the United States, what they're trying to do is bring the war to an end. I think that aim is shared by everyone. What we want to secure is not just an end to the fighting, but a peace that lasts, and that has underlined every action the Prime Minister has taken in recent weeks, because it will do nothing to secure Ukraine's future if we have a temporary ceasefire, which lasts only as long as President Putin wants it to."